baby shark. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of In Case You Were Wondering. I'm Chris.
I'm Amber.
And you guys have probably noticed that Amber's here and I'm here, but Vicky's absent.
Yeah.
We're flying solo. We're a duo here today. But we're talking about a show that we both really, really love, and that is Invincible. We know that you guys love it, and it's something that the two of us really are passionate about. So, are you excited?
I am.
Okay, I'm glad. It's actually kind of cool because normally Amber is on that side of the camera.
It's really weird because I had to ask someone to help me with cameras. So, if you want to say hi, you could go do a peekaboo.
Hi. All right,
Okay.
And that is my awesome wife, Jill, Vicky and Amber's mom. So yeah, she is definitely giving us the assist here for our episode tonight. Right now, we're focusing on season 1 of Invincible. It was created by Robert Kirkman. A couple of things you guys might not be aware of. I looked up its IMDb rating. It scored an 8.7
That's still
out of
pretty
10.
high.
It's pretty high. It's pretty high. Interestingly enough, it got a Rotten Tomato score of 99%. Not really a surprise. How often have you noticed where we have like critics who score something low, and then when you have like normal regular people, right, the fans score it much higher. Amber, how do you feel about that? Like when you think about particularly season 4, but now that we've seen season 2, I'm sorry.
Season 4?
If we just scratch that. How do you feel about season 1 and 2? How would you rate that?
Season 1, I think, is still top tier, you know, because it had all the classic cool backstory, kind of like the Superman kind of introduction of, hey, I'm an alien, you know, I'm trying to save the world, yada yada, you know, the normal basic superhero. But then I really liked how they tried to make their own characters similar to like the Justice League or like the X-Men, because it's kind of obvious that they're using them as kind of baselines for the characters.
They really are. I'm glad that you kind of went there with that. You're right. We have the Guardians of the Globe. I've kind of thought about them a bit like the dollar store Justice League. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a fish guy who's sort of like Aquaman. You got, somebody who can run fast. You got someone like Wonder Woman. All right? All those characters, they really are meant to be like the Justice League. And in the same way, Omni-Man, right? On the one hand, we're supposed to see him like Superman, and then
He flips.
he does. We see him totally betray the Guardians of the Globe. And we see him rather effortlessly wipe the entire team out. It was certainly not something that I had seen, but if you're a fan of Superman, you're probably familiar with the Injustice storyline. Had you heard of Injustice before?
I have heard bits and pieces of it because, you know me, I'm also a geek like my father.
Right.
So it's just it's kind of cool like when you see things like the Justice League or like any other group and you see how all these teams actually work together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The Injustice storyline, though, is really meant to be what would happen if Superman did not, or that he chose to kill, right?
Yeah.
That he's willing to do whatever it takes in order to make the world, in his eyes, a better place. He becomes essentially the dictator of the world. And I think we see that same thing happening with Omni-Man, right? Omni-Man, as we know, he's a Viltrumite.
Yes.
What do we learn about Viltrumites from season 1?
Well, we get told that they kind of go to different galaxies to help protect them, and they help with resources and helping them to thrive better. That's what what Viltrumites do. And then later on in the series, we find out that it's the polar opposite, that they want to get rid of everything.
It's crazy that Mark had been raised looking up and idolizing his father, right? And I guess that's not too crazy. If you had a parent who was a superhero, you might want to grow up to be like them. But he didn't, I don't think either Mark or Debbie understood exactly who Nolan was. He clearly had not revealed that his whole purpose for being there on Earth was to prepare it for invasion.
And populate.
So that was pretty crazy. I don't want us to get too far without talking about the major cast. Stephen Yeun plays Invincible, Mark Grayson. The incomparable J.K. Simmons plays Omni-Man, Nolan Grayson, and Sandra Oh plays Debbie Grayson.
One of my favorite voice actors.
I agree.
One of my favorite. Also, J.K. Simmons.
Yes. So, I mean, I feel like the casting of this, sometimes people that voice animated shows don't get enough credit for what they bring to everything else.
Like,
however,
other ones that I think should be recognized is the one that does Azula. But, like, there's Mae Whitman. She was, like, the secretary to...
Well, I agree. Definitely it comes down to, there's some amazing voice actors that are here in this show. I think that along with, it becomes this mystery, right? Omni-Man has lived this double life and he has completely destroyed the Guardians of the Globe, but people don't realize that initially, right? And I think that we see Debbie, who I think Nolan has always underestimated. He's even said he treated her like a pet and not like an equal, which is terrible. So the idea that she would figure out who he really was, I think that was really important. I think one of the major things we see in season 1 of the show is how Mark grows from the beginning until the end. What are some ways that you've seen kind of Mark change here in season 1?
Well, like at the beginning, he always thought, okay, it's going to be super easy. It's going to be like riding a bike, you know? That's what Nolan, Omni-Man always told him, that like it's like riding a bike, it's like an instinct. But then he went from like a baby flyer to almost beating his dad speed-wise.
I mean, I think it's crazy that he hadn't been a superhero very long, and he was accompanying astronauts to Mars.
Yeah.
Right? I mean...
If I was in his place, I would have been like, hey, I'm gonna go, you know. I'm gonna go see ya.
Right. And again, I think that one of the things we really see is Mark is trying to live up to be like his father. And you consider, if you woke up one day and you had powers, I mean, I think that initially you might be excited. I get to be a superhero. The reality, though, of being a superhero is a lot harder than I think a lot of people realize. And it's something that I think in this story, they do a really good job of. What's some of the challenges that you've noticed here that Mark has?
Well, especially because Mark is a high schooler in season 1, and he is dealing with a lot of trauma, and like he has to kind of hide his identity. He can't tell people, oh yeah, I went to France yesterday. And then you've been to school that day. What would you say? You know? Or he has a girlfriend named Amber, weirdly enough. But it's just that the fact that he was trying to hide it from everyone around him, even his best friend William, up until episode 6, I believe. That's when William finally found out. But it's because it's a secret identity you don't want to tell people. And you know how it goes. And it's just, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes because you're putting a lot on a high schooler, college student. And if someone put that stress on me, I would have been like, I'm going to hide in a corner.
Oh, yeah. I think that talking about finding a balance, right, between your personal life and family and your responsibility as a superhero, that's something that I think maybe doesn't get talked enough about in comic books or in movies. I think being a teacher, I think the challenge of how do I do my job and how do I be a husband and a father and not lose myself in the process, I find that really relatable. And it's something that we see as Mark is trying to, balance being a superhero and still wanting to have a relationship with his mother and his girlfriend and his best friend. I think that's something that we really see a whole lot here in season 1. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things specifically that we noticed that they do a really great job here in this show, and that they talk about particularly kind of introducing it in season 1, is just the challenge of trying to find balance in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that sometimes we don't realize just how hard it is to find balance. Sometimes adults in particular will prioritize our jobs at the cost of our families or our relationships or other things that are important. And we see here Mark having that same problem. How does he balance being a superhero and living up to his father's reputation, and at the same time still have a girlfriend and spend time with his best friend, and even think about high school or going off to college?
Yeah.
That's a huge issue.
One of the things we do have to say is the battle between Mark and Omni-Man.
That is huge. I mean, I feel like that's the battle that we build up to over the course of this entire season 1. What were you expecting to happen?
For some reason, I was expecting for Omni-Man to either kill Mark.
Right.
But he didn't. Spoiler alert. Or it was either he was getting everything totally destroyed. Destroying Earth quick. So it was either those two options. What did happen was that he went out to space and went to that Thraxan planet. And yeah, that's all we know for season 1.
Okay, I feel like you skipped over some important stuff there, though.
I know, but you can say it. You can say it.
The fight between Mark and his dad, it wasn't just a little bit of a push around. I mean, Omni-Man literally turned his son into a bloody pulp. I mean, he knocked out most of Mark's teeth. He was a bloody mess. And crazy, there's that moment where in 500 years, they'll all be gone, and you'll still be here. And what will you have then? And Mark said, I'll still have my father. And I think, Superman has kryptonite, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is his weakness. We don't know about Viltrumites and their weaknesses, but I think it's very obvious here in season 1 that if Omni-Man has a weakness, it's definitely his son. I think we had always wondered about whether Nolan really loved his family or not. I'm sure that that's something that Debbie had always wondered about. Did he really love us, or was it all just a part of a game? And I think the fact that Omni-Man at the end of season 1, instead of killing his son and enslaving Earth, he flies off into outer space and leaves the Earth behind, abandoning his post. Something that, as we find out, no Viltrumite has ever done. I think that's the most courageous act of love we could have ever asked from Nolan.
Mm-hmm. Well, our time is about up pretty soon.
That was fast.
I know, it was fast. If you like our video, please like and subscribe. I know I'm on the other side normally.
You guys know what to do, right? Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure that you please some comments down there in the comment section. We definitely want you guys to tell us what you think. All right, make sure you go and put some likes on there as well. And hey, we're going to be going and doing our review here of season 2. So keep an eye out for that video as well. Hey guys, from In Case You're Wondering, I'm Chris.
And I'm Amber, and Vicky's on travel day.
She'll be back. All right, guys, we're signing off. Have a good night. Adios.
Bye. In case you